You're listening to Sobrietea with Ari Eastman. Hey, that's me. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sobrietea with me, your pal, your friend, your lady, Ari Eastman. The next time I do an episode, all things willing, I guess you can't say anything definitively, but this coming week is my 3 years sober from alcohol. As a Friday, which is September 23rd. Do you remember the September 23rd when you stopped drinking? So I'm going to be 3 years sober, and it's one of those things that I don't want to say it's losing its excitement, because that's not true. It's still very exciting. I'm still very proud of myself. But I think sometimes when I hit certain milestones or certain places in my life, when I've accomplished something, I get this little evil voice that says, sabotage it. And the good news is that in sobriety, I can hear that voice and I can recognize that voice as my little destructive, after midnight gremlin, and let it pass. If I was still drinking and I had that voice pop up, I'd lean into it. Sheryl Sandberg, lean in. I'd say, okay, yeah, let's burn our lives down. Arson, let's do it. I'm grateful that, again, sobriety gives me like a clarity, a sense of knowing that feelings are not fact, and just because I get this sudden impulse to ruin my life doesn't mean I should do it. And in the vein of this sort of self-sabotage-y thing that my brain is doing, I have been romanticizing some of my drunk memories. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a newer development. This is a newer thing for me, because so much of the end of my drinking, I was so miserable. I wasn't having a good time. There weren't fun nights out. I mean, I've said this again and again. I was oftentimes a solo drinker at home. So it's not even like I was out there making memories. I was spilling wine on my laptop. Count it, 3 different times. Do you know how embarrassing it is to take your laptop into the same guy? And he's like, smells like red wine. And you're like, yeah, it was my little sister. Yeah, that was my 12-year-old sister. I don't have a problem. So I wasn't doing too many exciting things towards the end of my drinking. Oftentimes when I would get drunk, it's because I was in a situation where I was feeling deeply uncomfortable. So I drank to get rid of that feeling. Maybe I was out with people and I wasn't feeling socially comfortable, and I wanted to ease that anxiety. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to just have fun. And so I would drink through the discomfort and drink too much, and then my brain shuts off. And then you end up also doing uncomfortable things and being annoying, and it's a whole other set of social issues that you have to deal with that, haunt you more in the morning than if you were just like kind of awkward. And I had a lot of negative consequences from drinking with relationships and friendships and saying things I didn't remember. I also had a really bad habit of holding things in and letting things fester. I'm a recovering people pleaser, and I would let things just eat away at me. And instead of like a grown-up talking to someone about maybe what was upsetting me or what I was feeling left out about or frustrated about, I would push it down, I would ignore it, and then eventually one day I'd get drunk and just like send them a really mean Facebook message. Because that's productive. So safe to say, a lot of my drinking, it wasn't anything that I could romanticize because they were bad times. I was not having fun. But lately, my brain has been pulling out the few fun, nights where nothing really bad happened and I had a good time, and just deciding to just play them. Like, I'm just driving somewhere and my brain's like, remember in New York? That guy that you had a really nice romantic date with after you met him at the bar and you were comfortable talking to him because you were kind of drunk? However, with that story, I have to then remind my brain that I met this guy because I'd had a catastrophic, terrible, horrible, drunken night with a different guy who ditched me, and I was so mortified. It was just such a bad night, and I was drunk, and I had forgotten that I had taken like airplane, like pills to be on the airplane so I didn't have a panic attack, forgot that I'd taken those. So I blacked out really fast. And then I went to sleep in a fully clothed in a bathtub. So it's like, that was what preceded this good drunk memory. That I had a bad drunk memory that New York trip. But I will say I had this, people always ask like, oh, what's like a, romantic date you've had? And I just keep thinking about this one where I was in a bar with some friends in New York visiting and started talking to this guy. Again, I'm sure that I was chattier because the alcohol was shutting off my brain and making me less self-conscious. I think at that point in time, I was really not, I had never gone to a bar and just met a guy there. That hadn't happened for me. And we ended up going back to his apartment in Brooklyn. But it was nice because we just kind of kept talking. And before anything else happened, we had sobered up enough. And I remember we walked on top of his building. He took me on top and we watched like the sunrise. And then he was telling me about like being in New York during 9/11. But for some reason it was very like tender and intimate. I don't know why, like a guy telling me about 9/11 is a part of my most romantic date, but it was just like very nice, very romantic. We both had the sense of like, we're not going to see each other again. Like, I live in California, you live in New York. We're talking about 9/11 on your roof. It's beautiful. And then I do remember at one point he had water like on his headboard or something. And I reached back and then I poured accidentally, I like grabbed, sorry mom, I was like grabbing the headboard or something because I'm wild, and I grabbed the water and didn't realize it was water and dumped the whole thing on us. So I just, in the middle of us having sex, I literally dumped cold water on us. I don't really know why this was my most romantic date memory, and so my brain's been saying, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice that you went to a bar and you were comfortable and you were chatting with this guy and you weren't all in your head? Because I am so in my head lately with social interactions. And I mean, God, I'm so shut off from the idea of any sort of intimacy that I think my brain is going back and collecting its evidence and going back and saying, okay, so when was a time that we had a good experience? Oh. And it's pulling out this one memory and it's just like, hey, go to a bar. Meet that guy like in New York. But that's one time. That's one time that I was drinking and it had a good outcome. Not all the other thousands of times when it was bad. And it was detrimental to my mental health and my self-esteem. And it was just shitty. Instead, my brain is pinpointing that one time that it worked. And I think that that's something our brains do sometimes when we are in a place of loneliness or change or uncertainty. And we're going back and we're looking when we're trying to find what's something that felt good. And I think in recovery, it can be tricky. Because, there are parts of drinking that could make you feel good. There are parts of numbing the loneliness and the pain that can temporarily relieve you of it. And it's so hard to, play the tape forward, as they say, and just remember that, like, okay, this moment of relief is going to be worse down the line. It's not like I want to drink. I don't think that's what this like sabotagey feeling that I'm having. I think I miss something. I don't know what it is. If it's connection, if it's friendship, if it's going out, if it's meeting people, maybe it's intimacy. I am really, really, really shut off to intimacy. And I don't even think I clocked how shut off I am, because it was easy to say, well, I'm in my period of healing because I've been healing, because that's a lot of what recovery and sobriety has been, healing, forgiving myself, keeping myself accountable, trying to figure out like how I got here, you know? But now healing has become an excuse. Now healing is the thing I can say to keep people away. Feeling desired and desiring someone, those are things that got shoved to the side for sobriety. Because a lot of that feeling was entangled with drinking, of feeling sexy and, you know, desire and all of these things. It was like tied to drinking, even though it wasn't real. None of it was real. And so as I let those things go, as I let drinking go, I let that feeling go too. I feel like I'm like, you know, how Stella got her groove back. It's like, how did she get her groove back? I don't remember. Was that a book? Was that a movie? It's like, how does Ari get her groove back? I don't know. But I think I need to start feeling that, you know, feeling desirable, even in just like a zest for life kind of thing. I think that I've been on the sidelines for a little bit, and I'm ready to really like, something has to happen, and it can't be drinking. So what's the next alternative? I don't know. I don't really know yet, but it's something to go out there and feel connections to people, and to feel like there's something bigger than me and doing something. And, you know, hey, maybe that's a recovery group, a 12-step group. I don't know. Maybe that's just being better at asking my friends to do stuff with me, asking my friends to get dinner, to hang out, to go do stuff. Getting back out there with dating, even though I don't feel like I want to do it, maybe I have to push myself, because guess what? There was a while where I didn't feel like I wanted to be sober, but I needed to be. And eventually, thank God, I did want to be sober. So I don't know. I'm just like, first year of sobriety, the very, very beginning is tough. And once you get past that beginning, it gets so much easier. You're in this pink cloud. You feel good. I felt so good my first year of sobriety. I was doing all these different hobbies and like reinventing myself. And I just, you know, I felt confident again, so many things. And then from year 1 to year 2, still pretty good. You're getting in the swing of things. You've had milestones, you've had holidays, you've had things happen that you were able to stay sober for. And then from year 2 to year 3, things get a little harder. And that's where I've been. And again, the hardness, it's not in craving alcohol. It's not in feeling triggered for that. It's in feeling a lack of something. Substance. Just not, you know, substances. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to find that, how I'm going to find that. But it's also been a little bit hard to do the podcast, to be honest, because I don't feel like I have a lot to say. And I think I've stopped participating in life in some ways. I don't know how to get myself back out there, because that was one of the gifts that sobriety gave me, was that I was participating in life again. So why do I feel lately like I'm not? I mean, my anxiety and my depression have definitely, you know, made a resurgence, made a cute little comeback. They heard that everything was getting a reboot, so my anxiety and depression said, us too, please. We're back, reunion. I guess if you are going through any sort of milestone, you're approaching something, even the idea, I think, of achievements, right? Like I get this feeling of like, I want everyone to be proud of me. I want everyone to be like, wow, good job. That's amazing. That's amazing. And sometimes it's like, what is that validation that I'm searching for? And why do I need to be, you know, patted on the back for this thing? And what happens when that feeling fades? It's like, am I Tinkerbell, right? Am I going to die if people aren't clapping for me? I don't know. Overall, I'm really proud that through everything I have remained sober, and that I've given myself that gift of being able to even question why I'm thinking things and what's happening and how am I going to find solutions. And, you know, those were not things I was able to have while I was drinking in my active addiction, because that takes precedence. Active addiction always takes precedence over everything else. So in sobriety, I get to sit here and say, I wonder why I feel this way, and I wonder what I can do about it, and I wonder how I can work through this, because it'll pass. I'll work through it. And drinking is never going to make it better. It's never going to solve it. Even if I was in New York at that bar meeting a cute guy who's going to talk to me about 9/11, drinking would have never made that better. I could have met that guy sober and still had that night. And I think that's what I have to remember. So anyway, if you're coming up on, a milestone, a soberversary, and you're feeling suddenly like, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling weird about it, like you want to throw in the towel, I think that's a super normal feeling, and you shouldn't feel like something's wrong with you. I think there's anxiety that builds up in us over some of these days because they do feel big, and they are big, but also they're just another day. And if it's causing you to spiral, then look at it as just another day. Every day you're waking up and you are sober, wow, fucking congratulations. Maybe that's all we need to do, Anyway, if you're still listening, love you. Hang in there. And I'll see you next week when I'm going to be 3 years sober.